in terms of the game last night, what has been determined here the last couple of weeks from our standpoint is the Leafs either play like the most electric, out of this world, lead changing overtime, back and forth, like you can't miss it type game, or they get blown out. Is that a concern? Is that just the randomness of the season that we happen to be in this cycle? Because last night was a lot like the Utah game. Just blown out, no life. By the third period, it was like pack your bags, see you later. And then the Colorado, Vegas, Winnipeg games were unbelievable games.
Yeah, I mean, I think not the boring, exciting game, but I think what the concern would be if there's going to be one is that the Leafs, good teams are going to get there in the end. They sort of have different ways to win. And sometimes they don't have, the Tiger Woods A game and it's checking and it's defensive and it's goaltending. And sometimes they got a run and gun and the system plays in there, but they have the talent to do that. Now, the Leafs clearly have the run and gun talent. They have the offensive goal talent. They've scored more than enough to be one of the best teams in the league. What is concerning is that it doesn't appear like they can win in different ways. It doesn't appear like they are very comfortable trying to check their way to a win. In a game like Utah where the legs weren't there, maybe in the last night, that first game back from the road trip, although that numbers are not exactly true. But, if your legs aren't there, can you structure your way into a game? Can you check your way into a tight contest in the third period where something good can happen? That doesn't seem easy for the Leafs, and that to me is maybe the concerning part about what we see in the last couple of weeks.
Johnny, the surprising part of that idea that you just mentioned is they check so well in that series for a bunch of the series against the Florida Panthers, and you would think a light would go off to say, like, this is just us now. But it just, I don't know, ever since the start of the season, it's kind of shown up at different times. It hasn't been a consistent thing, and I just wonder why.
Well, I mean, I think the goaltending hasn't been as consistent to clean up some of their misses. So we associate good checking with low goals against. Maybe it's not always good checking, but sometimes good goaltending, which is part of the team, and that's okay. Last night, Wool wasn't great. I think Chris Tanev not being on the team this year hurts them a lot. Like remember how good he was last year. Him and McCabe were one of the best defensive duos in the entire NHL, while Jake McCabe has had a very good year in his absence. Well, when he has a speed wobble, that McMahon turnover last night, whatever it might be, it's a bit more noticeable. He doesn't have the duo to be quite as rock steady as they were last year. And I think that really hurts for sure. And, again, Max Domi making a lot of nice plays, a lot of nice goals. We've seen him before do these things, but defensively, he's not maybe the strongest. And then Nylander, the same. Tavares maybe a bit of the same. So I don't know if it's so much a question of willingness. It's maybe just more a question of ableness.
Well, MJ, when you look at that, like you looked at last night, they were having a hard time getting out of their own end. Jake McCabe had a tough game. The breakouts weren't great. The net front coverage wasn't great. It speaks to maybe that this defensive core, to your point, without Tanev, with a lot of other injuries that have put a lot of pressure on the guys who are in the lineup to play more than they're used to and maybe higher in the lineup than they're used to. You feel like it's wearing these guys down and that Tree Living is going to have no choice but to make some kind of an addition between now and the trade deadline?
Yes. You know what? 100%. Like, I think if Tanev can't come back this year or can't come back in the regular season, I think maybe not Rasmus Anderson, maybe it's Dougie Hamilton, maybe it's somebody else. But to find a defenseman who can play, not just a defenseman who could be in the lineup, but a guy who can play would go a long way to helping ease the burden. We love Troy Stecher. There's nothing not to love about Troy Stecher. He was never going to be able to do for 60 games what he did for 15, 18 games, where it was just everything was falling his way. Even if the shot shares were not in his favor, the goal count always seemed to be, he has taken a step back. Of course he has. He's not Ray Bourque. He's Troy Stecher, NHLer, but, not elite level player like his numbers were suggesting early. Yeah. And then Morgan Riley, again, continues to have tough defensive moments. So, you run down the guys who play in their top four, and they could use some support. And then if they get someone like that, then everyone looks better. The guys in the top four, the guys who get bumped down to the third pair, everyone gets slotted a little bit more appropriately. Ice time gets handed out a bit better, and everyone looks a little cleaner than their end. But if Trey Living has designs on this team sort of making the playoffs, because as great as this run has been, they're still not in the playoffs. And the teams around them, they never lose. The Atlantic Division is ridiculous right now. So, yeah, to get in the playoffs, he might be forced into action.